A rocket attack on the Syrian city of Aleppo has killed at least 14 people and injured a further 50. That's according to local medics. The shelling targeted a predominantly Kurdish neighbourhood. It's unclear who was behind the attack, rebels who signed the ceasefire agreement or terrorists from the Al-Nusra Front. Also, the Syrian military has confirmed to us that one of its fighter jets has been downed by militants in the same province. Video has just emerged, allegedly showing the moment it was hit. The Syrian army says terrorists from the Syrian branch of the Nusra Front are behind the attack. Now more video, this time apparently showing the brutal capture of the pilot, is being circulated on social media. We cannot confirm the authenticity of the pictures at this time. A dozen men are seen crowding around another man lying on the ground. They can be heard shouting that he's Syrian and calling to disarm him. Also on social media, lots of pictures claiming to be from the fighter jet's crash site. In one image, a pair of men have photographed themselves with flaming debris in the background. Well, let's cross live to RT's Lizzie Phelan now, who's in Syria. So, Lizzie, you've been to the area. Who's fighting in Aleppo right now?
Well, in Sheikh Maksud is one of the areas in Syria that has been completely unaffected by the ceasefire. There's almost clashes there on a daily basis. We visited the neighborhood a few weeks ago, a day after another deadly attack where several civilians were killed. And while we were there, there were gas darts from opposition-held neighborhoods being fired constantly into the neighborhood.
In Syria, several days of heavy fighting have seen government forces backed by Russian airstrikes drive out Islamic State from another key town, one which was once home to a sizable Christian population. The army expects the town of Al-Qaryatayn to serve as a further springboard to advance against ISIL strongholds in the east of the country, as well as securing oil and gas routes from the capital to oil fields in eastern Syria. The town's streets are covered in dust and debris following its liberation. The town had been under ISIL rule since last August. Lizzie Phelan sent us this report earlier from the devastated area.
With Palmyra retaken, pro-government forces are pressing ahead with their campaign to cut off ISIS supply routes through the oil and gas-rich desert around the city. Last week, with Russian air support, they swiftly retook the nearby town of Al-Qaryatayn, in ISIS' hands since last spring.
Al-Qaryatayn is at a junction that connects the Iraqi border with Palmyra and from Palmyra through to Damascus.
The town is totally deserted. No sign of the hundreds who ISIS reportedly kidnapped here. This fighter from a local tribe says they were moved out long ago to Raqqa, the de facto capital of ISIS, and where the group is most heavily entrenched.
Most information shows that the kidnapped Christians from Qaryatayn were taken to an ISIS prison under the Al-Bas Dam. They put them under the dam to avoid being targeted by Russian and Syrian aircraft.
This town has a large Christian population. Of course, ISIS are notorious for their persecution of Christians and people who follow faiths that are different from their own very exclusive interpretation of Islam. Now, there's not one civilian left in the town for us to talk to hear from them what life under ISIS was like. But we can see signs of their persecution. Here, ISIS have left behind a bulldozer that they used to partially destroy this ancient monastery, the monastery of St. Elias, which dates back to over 1,500 years.
Human bones are strewn amidst the rubble, perhaps the bones of St. Elian himself, who it's claimed was martyred here for refusing to renounce Christianity.
Inside there's an Assyrian church, and all symbols of Christianity have been destroyed here by ISIS. Here in the church graveyard. The gravestones have been trashed, all the crosses have been removed, and the texts from the Bible. Now, thankfully, this beautiful old church is still standing. But when we go inside, and even actually on the front, you can see that it's been heavily desecrated. The inside has been set on fire. The old beams have been burnt. Here there's some of the texts that they burnt from Assyrian Christian texts. In fact, there's not one building left in Qaryatayn that has escaped damage from the fighting. It's very hard to imagine how the people who lived here will ever be able to return to their homes. So ISIS gone, but Qaryatayn, at least for now, has become yet another place in Syria that's been wiped off the map by the war. In Qaryatayn, I'm Lizzie Phelan for RT.